young people around the world want to see change. Join your co-hosts, William, Anastasia, and George, as they speak to young leaders from around the world on their stories, their struggles, and most importantly, their incredible impact. In season 2 of this podcast, be ready to get inspired. This is where action begins, and this is the Young Changemakers podcast. Hello everyone, Anastasia here. Hope you're all doing well from wherever you're listening to this episode. This is actually going to be my first ever recorded episode for the second season as your co-host for the Young Changemakers podcast. Isn't that really cool? I know, I'm excited with lots of energy. For me, this podcast gives such a great platform for young changemakers and allows our stories to be celebrated in a way that's not typically seen, or should I say heard, before. It's honestly the coolest thing to be part of, and we can't wait to take you more on the journey. For those who don't know me, I'm an Australian but currently live in Singapore. I was selected as a Global Changemaker delegate for Australia in 2019 and am very passionate about technology, women's empowerment, and how digital marketing can be used as a force for good. I volunteer frequently in my local community and am very keen to be your co-host for this season. Now, for this podcast, I had a great chat with Ronke. She is an amazing university student who founded a social enterprise called Anchorise. I won't give too much away, but you'll be able to hear more about her story in the podcast. This interview I found really inspiring, so I think you're in for a treat. We'll deep dive into topics like how she got started, how she balances all her various responsibilities, and where she sees the future of her organization. For context, this episode was recorded about 2 weeks following the tragic death of George Floyd, around mid-June. So we're in a bit raw state in terms of how we're feeling. You can hear it at the beginning of the episode. We also discuss a little bit on race and the current way NGOs in the UK are addressing the colonialist roots. Getting a bit real for a moment, it's been a tough time for everyone. So sending as many heart emojis and sparkles to you wherever you are in the world virtually. Remember to be kind to yourself, take the rest that you need, sit back, relax, learn, do that hard work, and hope that you enjoy this chat. Now let's get into the podcast. Hi Ronke, welcome to the Global Changemakers podcast. I'm so happy to have you on.
Thank you. Hi, I'm so excited to be on. Thank you for having me.
No worries. How are you feeling today? It's definitely an interesting time for all of us at the moment.
I think I'm feeling good, like with everything going on in social media. The last 2 weeks have been obviously crazy and, so emotionally draining with the racial injustice stuff and COVID. We're in a pandemic. We're in 2 pandemics, you can say. Yeah, I think I'm okay. I'm doing good this week. This week has been better, definitely, than the last 2 weeks, which has just been, again, just draining and emotionally, just emotionally draining. But I'm much better this week, which is good. I'm on the up. So yeah, I'm good. How are you?
Yeah, I think a little bit likewise. I think it's definitely been a big time for everyone. It's been a lot. I hope that you've been taking a lot of self-care, a lot of taking time out. I think it's one of the big things that's been happening a lot because there's so much news and consumption of all of that news can be a lot and draining. I think for me also same, on the up. But yeah, I think everyone's recovering in different ways though.
Yeah, I completely understand. I've done so much self-care stuff. I've done so many masks on my hair and my face that ever before in my whole entire life because I can do it while working now. So it's been a good, this period in general has had some good parts and some, obviously really low parts, but I think everything works out for good. I'm a strong believer in that. So I think so I think it will all work out for good, but I can't underestimate the fact that it's been quite tough. To be fair.
Yeah, 100% agree. You're at the moment in London, right?
Yeah, I'm actually in Birmingham, but I'm in the at Goods University in Birmingham. So it's 11:40 right now.
AM, right?
a.m. Yes. So
Yeah.
it's not too bad. I think it's quite late for you, right?
Yeah, it's about 6 p.m. here in Singapore. Not too late. It's okay. Yeah, don't worry. I've like had my dinner, so we're good. That's so good. That's so good. Have you taken any new hobbies up during this time, or gotten anything?
So I started learning how to code.
Hey, very
I got
cool.
Yes, I am doing Python right now. I just finished my first like block of classes. I'm actually doing on LinkedIn Learning. This is not an ad for LinkedIn Learning. I just have it for free with my university. So yeah, so LinkedIn Learning has been good actually. Then I'm doing French lessons. I'm taking back up French. And then I've started running. I used to hate running. Like running was like the bane of my life. Like I'm a gym goer. I go to gym frequently, but I just do not like running. So I started running. So those are the three things I've taken up this time.
Oh, very cool. I love that you're doing, yeah, like running and coding as well. Like it sounds like it's a very productive time here during
Yeah.
during the lockdown, which is good. To do on the Global Changemakers podcast, really get us started in a really fun conversation, is really just ask all of our guests, what is your favorite quote, and why? I think, what really inspires you during those hard times, and what do you come back for strength?
Mm. I would say I don't have one huge overall in my life consistent quote. I think I have a quote as like a different quote to different seasons. I found this I'm still on Tumblr. I'm like an old school girl. So it's called by Jamie Tokwaski. It's from, I think, a book called If You Feel Too Much, and or a poem. And it was, God must be a pretty big fan of today, because you keep waking up to it. Yesterday is dead and wrapped in grace. The past is covered by grace. Today you are alive. Today is the best place to live. And I think as you during this time, this is really, really timely for me, because during this time with COVID and everything, it's quite you can be quite anxious about the future in terms of what's going to happen to your job, I'm graduating from my master's this year, so I'm literally graduating into a pandemic and a recession, so it's a lot, so you can be quite anxious, but I still have a lot to do right in front of me with my social enterprise that I run, with university and with other projects that I'm doing, that I can't afford to constantly live like in the future, and I can't afford to constantly worry about the future. So it's definitely a quote that just has been sticking with me. So every time I get a bit like, I start to think about the future so much, because I do that. I think I'm quite future orientated, I think, but sometimes it's good to just take it one step at a time, one day at a time. And even a Bible verse says, tomorrow will worry about itself, so worry about today. So I think today it's just about living in the moment, but having that balance of thinking about the future, but not being in the future too much that you don't have a good time today and you don't do your tasks today because you're so anxious. So yeah, that's my quote that keeps me going when I'm getting anxious. I'm like, you know what, tomorrow will deal with itself. I'm gonna do what I can today, because that's what I can control. So yeah.
Nice, that's beautiful. I think,
Thank you.
okay, like it's a really nice quote that I think really can keep you grounded. I think, like you said, there are things that we can't necessarily control, and whilst we can think
Mm-hmm.
about the future, it's really important to really enjoy that moment. And I
Yeah,
think that's
definitely.
yeah, like I said, like you said, very timely, especially during, yes, the current times. Yeah, that's it.
Yeah, it's a weird time. We're living through a weird time.
That's it. That's it. Ronke, like you founded an amazing social enterprise, Anchorise. Love for you to be able to tell us a little bit more about that, and how you got started.
Yeah, so with Anchorise, it started in 2017. And then basically, I'm originally Nigerian. I've grown up in Ireland my whole life, and I came to school to do university in the UK. So yeah, so I go back to Nigeria quite often, and I just always had a heart for young girls and for empowering young girls, through workshop, through classes. So in 2017, I went back in December for Christmas, and I actually know somebody who runs a school in quite a low income area in on the outskirts of Lagos, basically. And I asked him the summer before, because I had come the summer before, and I was like, can I possibly come and do like a workshop, like an empowerment workshop, confidence workshop. I also wanted to educate about like sexual abuse awareness to the young girls. So he was like, yeah, you can come through. So I came, I delivered the workshop. It was great. They were really engaging. It was a workshop full of entrepreneurship, self-confidence, self-esteem, a little bit of sexual awareness, because there's a high percentage of girls in Nigeria who are sexually abused on a daily. It's a very high percentage, so it's quite sad. So I also, kind of educated them about that, and it was just me, and it was just 10 kids, so that was fun. And then so after that, as I was leaving, this woman was like, oh, it was great what you did, thank you, like the teachers really loved it, they'd never seen the kids engaged in that way, and they're like, oh, it's a shame that some of them are not going to be back though. And I was like, what do you mean they're not going to be back for January? Like, they're not going to be back in school? And they're like, yeah, they can't afford it. Like, they can't afford it, and their parents will rather choose the guy, their sons over their daughters to go into school, to continue school, which is really something that we see all over the world. Within different cultures, and a woman, a man is preferred over a girl. Like, that's the preferred economic, they'll prefer to spend over a boy than a girl. And I guess it's because they're seen as having better economic value than the girl. As horrible as that sounds, but I think that's the reality. So I was really just upset by this. My birthday's in January, so when I came back to school in Birmingham, I did my undergrad here as well. I basically raised money. I basically raised money for my birthday, from my birthday proceedings. We had like a games night, and I think people paid like £5 each, and I raised like over £400. And so that money was used to help 5 girls, empower them through school, through books, through whatever, through fees. Some fees were waived and all that stuff. So I was like, this is really cool. So I was like, so at first it was a charity really focused on empowering girls, educating about sexual abuse awareness and all these kind of different things. But then I was like, I wanted to be more than that. I wanted to be a tool to empower girls through education for the rest of their lives. So I basically dreamed and brainstormed every single day about ways I can make it sustainable, because I know a solely based charity is quite rigorous and hard. And also I did want to own a business. So I think after a few years, 2018, 2019, of brainstorming, speaking to different people, I came up with the idea of selling sustainable backpacks and side bags, and eventually different types of stationery that's going to be made out of pineapple skin and recycled plastic bottles and all the recycled products, and with each bag we're empowering a girl through school. So through that we partnered up with 2 organizations. One actually gives out scholarships to the girls, and that's what we're doing with them. And the other one is a youth empowerment program, which empowers young people in Nigeria. So that's IYF. So Impeccable Youth Foundation kind of empowers young people through school, empowers young people in general. And then with In Her Shoes Foundation empowers girls through school and other means as well. So we partnered up with those two organizations that are in Nigeria and on ground, because they're part of our mission. So we believe in collaboration. So those two teams or two NGOs fulfill parts of our vision. So it was really good. That's how it really started. So it wasn't I woke up with it one day and it was something one day. I knew that I wanted to definitely help young girls and empower young girls. How it happened and how it came about was what I kind of stumbled into, but the core mission was always there. Yeah.
Wow.
That's the long and short of it.
Yeah, no, I love that. Like, that's amazing, honestly, and super admirable. I think, like, starting from just, an idea of, I want to fundraise for girls, and being inspired by, that experience that you had, and thinking, I need to do something, I need to make a change, and actually fundraising on your birthday, and that becoming even more, 2 years later. That's really commendable. It's something to be, like, super proud of, like, in terms of the story. I think there's definitely, I'm sure, a lot of people on this, like, listening to this podcast, also, thinking about maybe potentially starting something similar to this. Love to understand, like, from all of this happening, you mentioned that, each of the backpacks are, that you're selling them and they're going back to the girls' education. How do you then measure the impact from that, like, education? Is it solely through the scholarships, or is it the number of girls, like, coming in, or the quality of the workshops? We'd love to understand a little bit more on that further.
Yeah. So because the mission, even though it's quite, straightforward, it's quite broad as well in terms of how we deliver it. So it's
Yeah.
empowering girls through education. And that's our core mission. So we do that through the two organizations that I mentioned before, IYF and In Her Shoes Foundation. So we measure, for instance, the scholarships. So part of what we do is also provide scholarships back and school materials such as bags, backpacks. So we'll be able to measure that in terms of the amount of scholarships that are given. When it comes to the other end of empowering girls, which is also important, which is workshops, self-esteem workshops, sexual abuse awareness classes, and sanitary pad runs, all these different type of things. And we then go to Impeccable Youth Foundation, and they run workshops. They have sanitary pad runs and all these different things. So because of that, we're able to then measure how many girls get these products or services that we sponsor from the UK or whatever. So I think that's how we measure it. We measure it through the help of the two organizations that are really a godsend that we're partnered up with. And we also measure it through like the different means and different things we're doing. So we're not just giving girls scholarships, we are empowering them throughout, because we know that like if a lot of girls miss school because they're on their period, we know a lot of girls miss school because of sexual abuse and rape. So by empowering them is not just through scholarships, it's through a whole means of things, which includes, as I've said, sanitary pad runs, workshops, career days, all these different type of things. We were going to plan a summer camp as well, but COVID happened, so we couldn't do that. However, yeah, so that's how we're measuring it. Measuring our impact in the future.
Nice. So that sounds amazing. So it's really like all encompassing, right? Like you're thinking,
exactly,
that the scholarship really filters through to all parts of their lives, essentially, whether it be sexual education, trying to find jobs, things like that. So it's really, really good to hear that. Yeah. I did have a look at your Instagram, and I saw that you had the goal of wanting to empower up to 1,000 girls in the next 5 years. I wanted to ask if this goal was still something that you are on track to achieve, or were there some modifications on this, or based on, as you go throughout the journey of the social enterprise, finding different things. Just wanted to understand that.
Yeah, because we have literally been held back by a whole year, because we are yet to launch our products. We're building up momentum and stuff like that. We're yet to see how that is going to be achieved. However, that's still our goal, because we want to empower through different ways and different means. However, we are adjusting how we're going to do that. So maybe we'll have more time to run more workshops, because obviously scholarships are once a year, because there's one school cycle. So maybe we'll run different workshops. There are different things in the work, so that's how we can adjust it. But also, as we're going and as we actually launch, we'll be able to really adjust those goals and see how it is. I think COVID has affected every business, every industry. So it's important that we adjust to those things, and we give ourselves grace as well for if we don't perhaps we reach 1,000, because this has been a year for the history books. That has been absolutely crazy. So yeah, I think we're adjusting by recognizing that we might not achieve that, but we're still pushing towards it. And we're going to be doing this maybe by doing more workshops and other different activities that empower girls than planned, if we have the opportunity to, after COVID is gone.
Nice. So that yeah, completely agree. Like really being really accepting the situation for what it is, and then really being transparent with yourself that there are things that are outside of our control, but let's see what we can do within our control. And I really love that positive mindset that you've put towards it, which is really great. Okay.
Thank you.
Hi there. We hope you're enjoying this episode so far. We just wanted to let you know that we're on social media at WeAreGCM. And don't hesitate to follow us. And if you'd like to support us further, we also have a Patreon page. Type in Global Changemakers and decide which tier is best for you. And now, on with the rest of the episode.
You mentioned earlier as well that you're studying at the moment. So like this sounds like a really big, big responsibility. Would love to understand, how do you balance that with your current studies at the moment? And what are your best tips for if, you are studying and also working on a project like this, for any of our listeners out there?
Yeah, I think I was listening to I listened to quite a lot of podcasts. So I did in the past few weeks when I had more time. But one of the things that I was listening to, I don't know what podcast I got this from, but there's like no such thing as real balance. It's
Yes.
more about harmony.
Agreed. Yes.
Yeah, it's more about like harmony and flow, and seeing where you need to be in what you need to be in harmony with, if that makes sense. So I don't necessarily think I have the right balance all the time. I don't think it's possible. At times I don't speak to my friends for a while. I do try and prioritize my friends, my family, to speak to them. Obviously sometimes I have to work overtime in terms of my schoolwork, and then vice versa in terms of Anchorise and all the other projects I have going on. But because I also work part-time as well for the university. so
Oh
so
my God,
yeah.
that's incredible. Working part-time as well.
Yeah, so I'm equality and diversity ambassador for the university. So I do work part-time.
Yeah.
And I think how I've done it is that, like, I came into the year knowing it was going to be busy. So I think the first thing I'll say to people is I know what you're getting yourself involved with, all your responsibilities. And I said I'm going to prioritize certain things over. I'm going to arrange things as the order of priority. So obviously I have my university, which this is the one time I can do my master's, if that makes sense. So I have to prioritize that, then Anchorize, and my job third. Also, my job is quite flexible, so I work on my own projects, so that has been good. And you would think I'd take on less projects, but I haven't. But that's okay because I'm passionate about it. But so essentially, what I do is that I had the goal in mind that, like, these are my priorities. So, and I also know that, like, I want to sleep. I don't subscribe to like the hustle culture of like no sleep, and you just grind. Sometimes that is it. You get minimum sleep because you're working or something, and you just weren't able to sleep. And I also prioritize exercising. So I think how I find harmony is being, and also speaking to my parents and speaking to my friends. So how I found harmony is by being okay within myself, if that makes sense, taking care of myself, because I am the source. If I'm burnt out, everything else will kind of just collapse, if that makes sense. So I think that, yeah, like, I find harmony within myself in terms of when I work out, what I eat, what I read. Like, I'm a Christian, so I pray quite a lot, and I meditate just to find that balance. And so that was the first thing, being making sure that you are being taken care of, because if you burn out, there's no point. Discipline as well is huge. I've had to say no to quite a lot of like night outs, and I don't really go out, to be fair. I don't really drink, so those things don't appeal to me anymore, as it would have when I was in my undergrad. So I don't really do all those things, so that has allowed me to sleep some more. I also, yeah, so I prioritize things I say yes to and no to. My weekends are highly valuable because obviously I don't have classes, so I try to make the most out of it. And most importantly, I rest, I sleep, I talk to friends, I read books, which is really important. So that's how I've balanced everything. So I think my tip would be, find harmony within yourself, how you work best. Know your goals and your priorities, what you put first, what you put second, and constantly readjust that and work towards that every single day. So as you have a goal, somebody, I don't do it every day, but somebody says, look at your long-term goals every day, and that motivates you, and then you know what you should prioritize, because opportunities come and have come to me like, do you want to do this, do you want to do that, and I had to be like, no, because I want to prioritize something first. So yeah, that's my, I don't know if that was succinct and as clear as possible, by trying my best. That's how I find my balance anyways.
No, I definitely 100% succinct. I love that. Like, Ronke, I think you've definitely, I think you know where your priorities are, and that's something I personally really admire about you in terms of how you were just talking through that. Because,
Mm.
yeah, like really, a lot of people maybe have like different responsibilities, but it's like if you actually really care about all of those different things, like you can actually balance it all out. It's finding that harmony, like you were saying. It's finding your, yeah, kind of like your medium. And I
Yeah,
guess it doesn't even feel like, I think it doesn't even feel like it's too much when you're so passionate about it as well. Like, because you're
exactly.
working
That's another
towards your
thing.
purpose, like working towards your
Yes.
cause, you know?
Yeah, so that's another thing, like, that I find is that, like, with everything I do with international development, studying it, I've been in uni before. I did law, and law is great, but that honestly, this master's degree has really, like, I enjoy reading. I enjoy doing my class readings. Even to the very end, I was doing class readings, and people were like, "How do you find time?" And I'm like, "I just enjoy it." So like, obviously some classes were tedious, but I really genuinely enjoy what I do. I genuinely enjoy being an equality and diversity ambassador, because it means advocating for marginalized students and running projects to help them. And I also enjoy, obviously, Anchorise, which is like my baby. So it's like, I enjoy these things. So it's easy to find a passion for it, but it doesn't mean I don't get burnt out. It doesn't mean I don't get tired. Like, I mean, the last 2 weeks with everything going on, I did. But once you have a passion for it and you put that, but you set it right in front of you, it's easy to keep going.
Completely agree. Finding what you, I guess, what you kind of want in your life. And I think a lot of, potentially there might be some listeners who may be listening and maybe they haven't quite found that path or what they really have as their purpose in life. What piece of advice would you like to give to someone who maybe would be interested in starting, whether it be a social enterprise, whether it be an NGO, whether it be just a grassroots, project within their local community of an issue that they're seeing, but they're not really sure how to get started? Like, what piece of advice would you say for someone to kind of want to make that difference in their community?
Yeah, I think in terms of finding a purpose. So are you asking if how to find your purpose and stuff?
Yeah.
I think finding purpose is a continuous journey, and stuff like that. I think obviously if you're a person of faith, you can like obviously pray about it and stuff. But I think I have a few questions that someone's posed to me and to help me find my purpose. So the person said, "What am I angry about so much that I want to change? What upsets me so much? And where do I find myself spending a lot of time and focus on?" And obviously, you can spend a lot of time watching TV and stuff like that. So it's obviously, it might
different kind of focus. Different kind of focus.
Yeah, different type of focus. But like, I think those three questions, like, what do you see in the world that you can speak about for hours? What do you see? What if I could do Anchorize and not get paid and still have a good, decent life? I would do it. You know what I'm trying to say? If I could be, equality and diversity ambassador and not get paid, I would do it. What are the things that that really make you passionate? And there could be loads of different things, but what are the things that you can then prioritize and actually do, if that makes sense? What are the things that you can that you see that you can make steps towards changing right now? Because there's certain things I want to change, but it's in the long run, if that makes sense. What are things that you can focus on right now? And sometimes with all the different things that you have a passion for, they all kind of coincide. Like, I think of a Venn diagram, really and truly, and then you have the big circles, and then you have the little middle part where there's something similar within all of them. So like that's like such a geek Venn diagram, but like, yeah, so it's just like,
it's good, yeah.
So I think of like, okay, I'll give myself an example. Like, I was before I became the Equality Diversity Ambassador in my undergrad, I was a BAME officer, which means Black and Ethnic Minority Ethnic Officer, which means I was basically a champion advocating for their things, and I really, really enjoyed that. That was to do with my advocating for minorities within education. There's Anchorise empowering girls through education. Girls are from minorities as well, in terms of being marginalized. That's another Venn diagram. And then I enjoy law as well. That's another Venn diagram. And then and then I enjoy all these different things, like advocating against sexual abuse, and also like decolonizing the curriculums and making it more inclusive for everybody and truly reflective of the country. So all those things are quite different if you look at it. But what is in the middle is really education and law and policy. So that's what I'm passionate about. So even though I do all these, and that's how I also guide what projects I do. So I would say, genuinely do what chase after things that make your heart, that pull on your heartstrings, that make, like, you see it and you're like, oh, like,
this
that makes me so angry that I could change it, and also don't be afraid to like try loads of different things and be like, I don't really have a passion for it. I really thought I had a passion for radio. I had a radio show. I don't really have a passion for radio. I might have a passion for podcasts, but like, radio is not really my thing. I'm not like passionate about it. I had a passion. I was a communications officer at one point in my undergrad. that I had a passion for communications. Don't really. Like I could live without it. I could not. So it's okay to try different things, but try and chase after the things that really just pull on your heartstrings that you want to make real change about that impact other people. And so that would be my advice. And don't be scared. Don't. It's really really scary, but don't let fear hold you back.
Nice. Yeah, I love that advice. And I think you put it really well in saying there's like those questions that you really ask yourself. And thank you so much for sharing those questions, as well as visually using the Venn diagrams. Because I think that's where I think people, kind of miss sight in terms of what they really want. It's trying to align what you already like and just putting them all together in some way. So
exactly.
Love that. So that's really cool. Just now you were also mentioning a little bit on the representation of minorities and ethnic backgrounds within the curriculum. I'd love to understand, like, because you've got your little baby of Anchorise, I'm sure you've interacted with a couple of other NGOs, so other social enterprises. Do you feel like, I mean, maybe specifically in London, do you feel like there is potentially like a colonialist mindset when going with NGOs and social enterprise there? And do you feel like there needs to be a change that happens within that space as well in terms of what you've seen and experienced?
Yeah, I think so I've subscribed to a newsletter from Devex. It's a development newsletter. And there's a huge thing right now about decolonizing development. A lot of the readings, a lot of the literature that I've read is very, very outdated language, and you can see that they come with, I don't know if you've heard of like a white savior complex, and it can be very degrading towards obviously minorities, and also just in general can be quite racist and derogatory. If we're being honest, a lot of literature can be. Obviously, a lot of them lecturers would remove that, but I think with NGOs, it's still a thing where their ways are seen. So one of the modules I did is development policy and politics, and one of the best ways to that's kind of been, I guess, somewhat proven is that you like one of the ways in which some projects don't work is that you don't adapt it to the political political environment of the country, and that is because you think that your ways from the West are better than their ways. So you come in with this plan, with this goal, and you're like, yes, I'm going to change it. This is it. You don't consult the local people. You don't consult the local government. You don't consult anybody. You just go in thinking, I'm going to make this change, and that's it. And then obviously then it fails, and then you're like, oh, it failed because they don't know how to handle these new shiny systems. But really and truly it failed because you haven't adapted it to the political situations. And that goes around the world. Like if there's certain things that in Singapore and I just come with an idea but it doesn't really adapt to how the people in Singapore do life, and it doesn't, and vice versa for people in England. That's how it works. But I guess we put much we're much more, I guess, arrogant. The NGO world can be quite arrogant when it comes to sub-Saharan and the global South anyways. So I think one ways in which is important to kind of deal with that mindset is learn locally and adapt to local practices. And I hope that answers your question in a way. So what I've done is obviously I partner with local NGOs that know exactly what the country and what the people need and what will work and what won't work, because some ideas I've proposed are like, nah, that wouldn't work, and they've told me straight up. So that's what NGOs I think in the Western world should be doing. I think they should be adapting to the local situations.
No, I love that you shared a little bit more about that quote specific. I love learn locally. I love that you mentioned that, because like you said, you may think you have an idea of what the issues or causes is in that particular place, but you don't know unless you really live in that community. So maybe a great key takeaway for our listeners is to really make sure that if there is a cause that you are investing your time and effort is to really know, like, yep, this is actually something that I know deeply about, I've researched about, I've consulted with like local members of the community and working together and collaborating with other groups to make sure it is actually of benefit as opposed to actually causing even more problems. And that's the last thing, you want people to
Exactly. You're right.
Yeah, exactly. Cool. Awesome. I think that's it. I think in terms of the questions,
That's
I
really
feel like,
cool.
yeah,
Um,
Ronke, like,
I enjoyed that.
me too, likewise. Like, I feel like we could keep talking for hours.
Yeah, for ages. It's
Us
really cool. Thank you
too.
so much for having me. I really, really enjoyed that.
No worries. If any of our listeners wanted to try and get in contact with you, maybe if they had any questions, where would you say would be a best point of contact to go through? Was it LinkedIn or Instagram, Facebook?
You can contact me on LinkedIn. So my name on LinkedIn is Ronke Oladele. So it's Ronke, and my last name is Oladele. So you can contact me there on LinkedIn and just send me a message. Yeah, that's the
Great.
best way. And if you want to find Anchorise, it's ANCHORISE CIC on Instagram and other platforms like Facebook. And you can also pop into our DMs and ask questions there. We're looking to launch sometime later this year, hopefully. So please just reach out to us there if you want to. Yeah.
Amazing. Yeah, definitely. As soon as you guys launch your backpacks, I am 100% buying one.
Thank you.
I hope you guys can ship to Singapore
Yeah.
from London. Thank you so much for your time today, Ronke. Hopefully we'll be able to speak soon, and hope you have a great day.
Thank you.
Hey, thank you so much for listening to this episode. Remember that you can help us have a greater impact by sharing this and encouraging everybody on your social media to take a listen. If you want to reach out, remember that the contact of the co-host is down below in the show notes, or feel free to do it on social media at WeAreGCM. We will be very happy to talk to you and answer any of your questions. Also, remember to follow us and to subscribe to this podcast. See you in the next episode. Take care.